Okay, so once again, welcome. For those of you that don't know who I am Wendy Myers. I am the Director of Counseling at the Cancer Caring Center. And we have a lot of great services. If anybody is interested in our services and do not know about us, all the particulars, please feel free to reach out to me. And I can send a service list to you so you know all the services. This group is a general group, and we have it every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Has been the first group we started when the pandemic started, and we have been able to get the benefit of pulling people in from all over, some even, from farther parts of the state. Some out-of-state people have joined us for different topics, but we try to have 2 different topics, speakers a month, and then 2 general open discussion chats. So this month we happen to have Sally discussing plant-based nutrition, and then we're going to have an oncology dentist come on and talk about dental care for cancer patients in 2 weeks. So you'll be getting that information coming up too. So a little bit about Sally. We're happy to have her. She is a plant-based nutrition educator and author, and she's the leader of Plant-Based Pittsburgh, and it's been around for a long time, and was probably one of the pioneers, I would think, in Pittsburgh, to have this discussion about the value of plant-based Pittsburgh. And as well, Sally, I'm sure, will share her history. She is a late-stage ovarian cancer survivor, and she just shared with me that she, has been, how many years has it been, Sally, again?
Cancer-free for over 13 years.
Yes. 13 years. That's a long time with ovarian cancer. So a real inspiration to us. So she's going to talk about what plant-based eating is, why it's so beneficial for health and well-being, and maybe describe some eating habits, including simple meal prep, shopping lists, tips for convenience recipes, and local resources. So with that, we welcome Sally Lipsky.
Okay, well, thank you, Wendy. Is this up? Can people see it?
Not yet.
Okay, then let me escape and go back on. Okay. Okay. Now, how is that?
That's good. We see you. We see.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
So, yeah, I'm going to give you just the basics today. I'm sort of assuming people aren't familiar. You probably maybe heard it, but so I want to go through especially some of the whys, because I have noticed working with cancer survivors, when you know the why, it really increases your motivation and your persistence with it. So I want to start with a little quiz. I'm a born educator. I was a professor of education at IUP. So, you got to start a class with a quiz, a pop-up quiz. So I have 5 questions here. So if you want to write it down, your answers, put it in the chat or just in your mind. I'm going to give you just a few moments to think, well, how would you answer these 5 questions? And we'll start with number 1. So I'll just open it. Does anybody want to say approximately what percentage of cancers are considered hereditary? Does anybody want to take a guess of that?
C.
B, 10 to 12.
Wow.
So yes, approximately 5%. True or false? Populations eating soy products have lower rates of various cancers, including breast cancer. True or false?
True.
True. Yeah, sometimes we hear this false information about soy, and that's why I put this in here, that it's, stay away, it's estrogen fueling, but it is a plant estrogen, and actually it's the populations who eat the most soy tend to have fewer instances of breast cancer. So what food is the biggest fuel for cancer cells? What do you hear all the time?
Sugar.
Sugar, sugar, sugar. It's not sugar.
Oh,
It is
goodness.
animal protein. Once again, we are led down, and that's a falsehood. We're given wrong, oftentimes given wrong information. And so how many grams of fiber in a 3-ounce portion of salmon? Then we want to take a none. That fiber, there is no fiber in any animal foods, any dairy, meat, none of it, there's no fiber. And we're going to see where fiber is so important when it comes to chronic diseases, including cancers. And very few, it's surprisingly few Americans even get the minimum recommended daily allowance. So those of us that are old enough to remember that the advertising pork is the better white meat, right? I'm going to say tofu is the better white meat. And I'm going to show you a chart here why. Look at the 3 ounces of tofu versus 3 ounces of chicken. So once again, it will show you that the chicken, very high protein, and again, it's half for your average female, it's half the recommended. But it also shares so much other undesirable elements of it. And we're not even talking about what they inject in the chicken breast. Won't even go there. But that just illustrates the difference between an animal-based protein versus a plant-based protein. Okay, so let me move on. As Wendy said, I was diagnosed in second part of 2007 with advanced ovarian cancer. And if you're familiar, it's often diagnosed late stage. And this was, I tell women, this was 1 month after a clean bill of health from my gynecologist. And then here I have late stage cancer. But it's also, so I went through immediately surgery, chemotherapy, and was officially in remission, after the last chemotherapy, which 6 months later. But I was waiting for return because ovarian cancer is known for, it's been resistant to chemotherapy. So I was like waiting and waiting, very anxious. And then by happenstance, I read this article. It's called, the author of the book, Anticancer, The New Way of Life. It was in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and he was a researcher at UPMC. And so it was just an article about an interview about how he had got cancer and how he started educating himself. And it was like, it sort of, wow, there's a relationship. I thought I was in my standard American diet. I thought I was healthy, middle-aged female, healthy. But then I started to research and read and just, become so familiar with it, going to workshops, conferences. I got a certification. And the more I became knowledgeable, the more I implemented, the stronger I and more empowered I felt. So I feel that I now fortunately have not had any reoccurrence from this cancer. And I really believe, this kind of lifestyle change has really helped keep cancer away, along with some other chronic diseases. There we go. So let's a few facts here. They estimate, this is a wide range, I know, but it also depends. So anywhere from 30 to 80% are related to diet. And that is why they say that cancer is largely a preventable lifestyle disease. It's amazing how And some people that immigrate from other countries, they were told that as soon as they start eating the American diet or standard, the developed country diet, that their risk for cancer just starts to get higher and higher. So you can have an enormous impact changing. Well, my focus for this is how you eat. But it is amazing if you look at that cellular level, that if you start including more and more and more plants in your diet and less and less and less of those animal products, you will see how your defense against cancer is just dramatic. So the research is so compelling about how it fights, it heals, and it even reverses some cancers, because there's virtually no nutrients in animal foods that we can't get from plants. So real quickly here, plant-based eating includes 4 food groups. And so I am a plant-based eater. Whole food. I don't eat any animal products whatsoever. But if, I certainly, when I work with people, I say, at the very least, put these 4 food groups in the center of your plate. And if you want to eat some animal products, put them to the side. And I'll show you some examples as we move on here. So just for definition, most of our society is omnivore. They eat animal foods, we eat plant foods, and we are eating over the generations more and more animal foods. As we have become more affluent, these chicken breasts, salmon, when someone asks, what are you having for dinner? Most people say, oh, I'm having the shrimp, I'm having the hamburger, whatever. It's sort of like the center of our plate. Vegetarians eat no meat, poultry, fish, but they do have dairy and oftentimes eggs. And then there's the vegans, and the vegans have no animal foods. However, a lot of times that term is sort of the umbrella term. People who are vegan can also get into it via animal rights or the environment. My focus is on health. And so if you took a subset of what is called healthy vegan, it is that plant-based eating, where there's no animal foods, but you're also minimizing the amount of highly processed foods and added fats, oil, sugar, and salt. Okay, because you can be a vegan and eat Oreos and not necessarily mean that you're a healthy one. So that's why I want to make the distinction. And if you look at the research, it's almost directly related to how much of the animal foods that you're eating and the chronic diseases, which tend to be obesity, high blood pressure, cardiac disease, autoimmune, type 2 diabetes, cancers. So the main reasons, to simplify it, is that plant foods contain what are called the phytonutrients, and they help suppress the growth of cancer. And the main elements are they're anti-inflammatory, high levels of antioxidants. They boost the immune. We've heard so much about the immune system with COVID. And there was a study that came out, I want to say 2 weeks ago. It's the first one I have seen, where they look at healthcare workers and looked at their diet. And it's not surprising to me, but the ones who were on plant-based, primarily plant-based eaters, 76% lower hospitalization and severe reaction to COVID. So, and fiber, of course, is the last one. So I just wanted to show you, these are just examples. If you wanted to categorize, okay, we know inflammation stimulates disease. We have those foods that inhibit inflammation. We have those foods that tend to strengthen and increase the inflammation. And you can see that so the left column, we also look at some of the other lifestyle when it comes to emotions, stress levels. So that certainly is also plays the important part of the inflammation. But I just wanted to show how the less you eat from the right column, the more you eat from the left, and that's just I'll show you more examples, that tends to have, it's called an anti-inflammatory diet. So plants average 64 times more antioxidants than any animal foods. And that's huge. It really is. And this is just an example of some of the variety of plant foods that are high in antioxidants. And this is how, if we want to, again, some of the variety of foods that tend to boost our immune system, as well as some lifestyle factors I put in, exercise and lowering the stress, certainly. So, really important. What you eat tends, I don't want to say always, but what you eat transcends, it's a stronger indicator of genetics. So a high diet of plant foods tends to not transform, not to activate the genetic factors. When I was getting my certification, if they showed the grams of animal proteins, and you could see when you hit on the slides of cancer cells, if you hit around 20 grams of animal protein, you could see those cancer cells start to proliferate. So seeing that sort of reinforces the importance of how you can get some control over cancer growth. And T. Colin Campbell, I'll give you the website. You can go get resources, but that's a classic, the research he did in China, and just happened to find the increase in tumor development with animal foods. And by the way, I do have to say that I certainly didn't get any of this information as a cancer patient. So I didn't, and if really, healthcare professionals are not trained in nutrition. Our healthcare system is not a preventative, it is a disease control via surgery, drugs, whatever. So our doctors really do not have this background, which people are trying to change, but we'll see. Okay, so we are really, as a society, we are so obsessed with protein to our detriment. It's making us sick. If you go on the government, the RDA, recommended daily allowance of protein, it will tell you on the government site that they recommend 36% of your body weight in grams of protein. Okay, so for average male, it's 50 to 60. Average woman tends to be 40 to 50. So just sort of, you can even do it real quickly in your head, a little bit more than a third. The right-hand box shows you how many grams of protein are actually eaten. And you can see even the vegans eat more than recommended protein, but the meat eaters go way over. And so you can see, if you're looking at the protein, it's fueling the chronic disease because we're eating overabundance. And here's an example. I wanted to put a slide up so you could see some examples, because I had no idea that broccoli has protein. Spinach, well, I guess potatoes. I knew the beans, legumes, but the grains, it's amazing. The pasta then has protein. It really adds up if you start accumulating. So I want to ask you, do you know how many calories in 1 tablespoon of olive oil? Does anybody know? 120 calories. And we'll hear so much about olive oil. It doesn't, 1 tablespoon, if we're making dressing, if we're putting it on our food, it doesn't go very far. How many medium-sized green olives do you think you can eat for the same 120? Does anybody want to write it in the chat or take a, because we're looking at just calorie density here. Okay, I'll give it to you. Look at that. 25 whole green olives.
Wow.
I know. How can you eat 25 whole green olives, you know? And what you're doing is you're getting the fiber, the nutrients, and fullness. So let me say that you want to minimize the fats that you're eating, and in regards to cancers, it lowers not only the rates of cancers, but it increases the survival rate, and also, as far as the other chronic diseases, has a huge impact. Okay, oil, there's nothing healthy about olive oil. We are right down the show. It's very, very highly processed. It immediately goes into our arteries, and you can understand why. I don't have but our number 1 killer is coronary heart disease. But also it helps if you're minimizing the fats, you are to maintain a healthy weight. Okay. This next one shows you, look at your stomach here. And if you had 400 calories of oil, it's not going to satiate you. You're not going to feel full, but chicken, more bulk. But if you go with the plant foods, it's going to fill you up and give you all these nutrients, give you the fiber, and you will be surprised how full you get and how much you can eat. I can speak from it. Okay. Now, this is, as a woman, and was always told, get your calcium, get your calcium. And I thought, I had yogurt every day, low fat milk, I had, low cheeses, because I was so worried about bone density and calcium. Lo and behold, dairy is not a good way to get your calcium. Who knew? It's very acidic, and it tends to leach into the bones, which tends to drive more osteoporosis. The better way to get to calcium is go to your plant sources, go into, fortified non-dairy milks, yogurts, leafy greens. They are absorbed, because it's not necessarily what you eat, it's what you're absorbing that is so important. You are changing the environment within your body that, as I said earlier, at a cellular level. Here's what shocked me as ovarian cancers. There is this protein casein, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it has an insulin-like growth factor, and it drives cancer cell growth. It's highly inflammatory, especially its relationship between hormonal cancers, breast, prostate, ovarian. And it's another example of how the dairy and meat industry drives the messages that we're given from our healthcare providers, but also from the media. And I almost always hear when I go through this, I can't give up my cheese. Oh, no, my husband, I can't do it. And there's a reason. Dr. Neil Barnard is a physician. He's also on the resource site if you want to look it up. But he shows how the concentrated casein, the dairy proteins actually have mild opiates, that if you do an MRI, it lights up the part of the brain that if you took. opiates. And he calls cheese a block of carcinogen. I will never forget hearing that when I went to one of his lectures. And it's just like, it's not worth it. And there is an addictive quality to dairy, but also especially to cheese. They do inject extra chemicals in it to heighten that addiction. So here's some examples. Look at the calcium milligrams. Top is milk, animal milks, and the bottom are some of the plant-based sources, which is, again, was shocking to me. I had no idea. So before we get into making meals, I just wanted to sort of look at 500 calories of food if you have on the middle column plant-based foods versus animal-based foods. It is amazing how that's like the T. Colin Campbell said, there's no nutrient that you'll find in animal food that isn't better represented in plant foods. The beta carotene, folate, it's very powerful. Okay, so here's what I do. So let's get into how do I do this? So I'm going to give you I did write a book. I put it at the bottom. So what I'm telling you is in the book, because I don't like to cook. I really don't like to cook. I like to assemble, but I want to eat healthful. So this is what I do every time I prepare a dish or think of a meal. I start with what complex carbohydrates can I send? It's the foundation. Absolutely. Carbohydrates are good. This is a high carbohydrate diet, as long as you are primarily choosing the complex. And I'll show you a chart. But it's the whole grains, the starchy vegetables, the lentils and beans. And then add the non-starchy vegetables and fruit, because that's the other thing I want to mention is the more calories that you add to your foods, the calories represent various nutrients and they work together. When you are eating them, they are sort of a synchrony, a mixture of working together to heighten the availability of vitamins and minerals in your body. And then, of course, what flavors do you want? So let me show you this about complex carbohydrates. I want just taking a moment, the left column versus the right column, you can see here why complex carbohydrates are so useful to the body. That it really helps the glucose release of energy, nutrients level. And then here's some examples. I just made this if you were doing step 1, what are some complex carbohydrates? Now, the whole grains, this is a totally incomplete list of whole grains because I have learned so much about whole grains that I had no idea. And more you're going to see like a farro. I never had tasted it before I went plant-based. Bulgur, buckwheat. But there's so many whole grains that you can look into. And you can get, I get the ready prepared. I eat breads, I eat the tortillas, I eat, cereals. But as I said, read the labels because some cereals are very high in sugar and fats and whatever. And then, of course, that's the next one. They're pretty self-explanatory, the starchy vegetables and legumes. As I said, this is what you're going to do as far as the foundation. And then here, it's just, again, now we're in farmers market season. Wow. Everything you can get more fresh, but I still rely heavily on frozen And the reason is the frozen has nutritional, it's flash frozen. So, and it's also the convenience, because my whole thing is we have to make it convenient and workable for you, or else, you know, if you're, it's not going to stick. And then flavoring. This is some of the flavorings that I recommend. One of the big things is dressing. I go with oil-free dressings as much as possible. If I'm eating out, I ask them to put the dressing on the side so I can just take a little. And you learn that if you start using less oil, it tastes, the food tastes, you know, it's like amazing, which is underneath that oil. But so I go with a vinegar or citrus, or if I want creamier sauces and dressings, you can very easily do one based on cauliflower even, but usually white beans, tofu, avocados, and ground nuts. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that you, oh, nuts. Nuts, raw nuts especially, are really healthy. Just don't, again, they're high in fat. So you just, that's why, you know, like 1 ounce, a handful every day are wonderful, unless you're trying to gain weight, which you might be. If you're underweight, then go with the avocados, the nuts, go with, you know, the tofu is about 40% fat. So go with that. Okay, and these are the additional ones. You have to come up with a milk, non-dairy milk, that where I love soy milk. I get the soy milk without, because I drink coffee and I want a nice creamy coffee. So I drink soy milk without the added sugar. But there's such a variety. I tell you, 10 years ago, it wasn't like this. It's amazing when it's happened. But if you get a non-dairy cheese from the grocery store, just read the labels, because some of the cheaper, the Diet, whatever, I don't think it tastes good, but it's also high in oil. But some of them, you know, it can be okay for sprinkling for transition. I tend to put cashews and water and lemon in a blender and make, you know, there's my cheese. And then meat like that, again, especially if you're missing that meat substance in there, you can make your own, which I would never do, but I just go like to the convenience of seitan, tempeh.
Pardon me?
Oh,
I think somebody was talking. If you guys, if there's some new people that joined, if you can mute, that would be great. Thank you.
and then as far as sweeteners, if you're looking for, you know, a little bit of sugar, if it helps, you eat that up fine. If you're looking for the sweeteners that actually have nutritional value, because this changed my whole way after cancer, I think I want to add nutritional value. It's not what I don't eat, but it's also what I do eat. So I know dates are high, they're sweet, but you know, I always have dates I can grind or buy date sugar, and molasses also has some nutritional value too. Okay, so here's some examples from my kitchen mainly. So it just shows you, start with something that's going to give you some bulk, the complex carb. And then, like, I love oatmeal. It's a staple. You know, I've been known to buy 50 pounds of oatmeal in bulk. It's just, I use it so much. I grind it, I bake with it. I like the sweetness of it. And so you just sort of have to find what works for you and how you want to experiment. But these are some examples of, I have to say, the pancakes, and my daughter made those. She likes to cook, but Yes. Okay, and the next two slides are examples of lunch, dinner, where you can make, I love one-pot meals, make it convenient, make it in bulk. Potatoes are another staple in my household. I almost always have potatoes because I can bake them or microwave them and have extra, and I can grab, they're easy, they're convenient, and you can do so much with them. And here's some other examples of, spaghetti, pizza, great way to use leftover vegetables. I use hummus a lot on my pizza because when you heat hummus, it's like, it has a cheese-like consistency, and I really like that. And this is an example of a one-pot meal. This is actually, I was doing a cooking demo, and I took a picture of that where, this was before COVID, where we could actually do some tasting of it. But it just shows you quinoa is so easy to make, so quick to make, couscous, and then I add a can of tomatoes, a can of black beans, frozen mixed vegetables, some salsa to give it some spice, and there you go. And then I always want leftovers, and I want things in the freezer. So I put this also in my book because there are certain, there's no, let me begin this by saying, if you don't like any food, you don't have to eat it, okay? So if you're not a mushroom person, just don't eat mushrooms, okay? There's no one food or nutrient that's going to make or break, okay? It's what you overall, it's your day-to-day overall eating. But there are a range of foods that tend to have very anti-cancer properties, and the alliums are the like garlic and chives, onion family. I do that. I have berries every day. This is where I do the frozen mixed berries because I know they're so high in antioxidants. Cruciferous vegetables and dark leafy beans. If you have to say what's one thing I should eat every day, I would point to that. Whether it could be in a smoothie, because I do that, put it in, but there's so much benefit to these dark greens that are anti-cancer. Ground flaxseed, also it's not just a seed, it has high in omega-3, but it's also what's called a lignin, which is, it has anti-cancer properties. Ginger, I usually put a piece of ginger in my tea. Oh, just the assortment of herbs. Again, dried or fresh, whatever pleases you, you're going to get some anti-cancer properties in there. Mushrooms, a variety of teas. I have green tea every day. I just make because I know. We've heard more and more about turmeric, and I do put that in my salad dressings, sometimes in my smoothies, whatever. I don't like the taste. It's a strong taste, so I try to mask the taste of it. But I do, if I'm using it in the sauces or whatever, I put black pepper in it and some fat because it does enhance absorption. And eating any of these is more powerful than a supplement. I should say that too. And as I said at the few slides ago, colors. Just look at your dishes, look at your meals, and just, throughout the day, just get the colors in. I had some cauliflower bisque for lunch, and it was just like, oh, this is all, kind of, yeah, it's a whitish, and I needed some color, so I always have peas. I love peas, so I put peas in from the freezer and cut up some green onions. So, So I'm going to give you a final message here, and then I'm going to take your comments and your questions. Okay, I just want to reiterate, it is absolutely powerful impact of what you are eating on a day-to-day basis. It's immediate and it's lasting. It really is. And I have to say, what you're eating is not just your physical health, it's also your mental and emotional health. I might have this, but I never call any food bad. Don't eat that, or it's all a choice. But I choose to eat. I just want a healthful, as much as I can, diet. So it's what you do. It's those actions you do take as opposed to feeling deprived. I never feel deprived. Okay, amazing. Someone offered me a cupcake from Oakmont Bakery, which someone did a few days ago. No, thank you. I just couldn't, give me that Asian sweet potato. Oh yeah, I'll take it. Okay. You'll be paying less money than you will for those, animal foods are going to be the meats, the poultry, the fishes tend to be more expensive. And it can be simple. It can be very simple. Key, this is so important, is that not only the resources, but the support is key. And they've done studies that show that most people who start to go eating plant-based and then fall and away from it tend to feel because they feel isolated. You are going to be swimming upstream. However, as I started teaching more and more of this, I realized the power of support. So in 2014, I formed a support group. In 2014, I had 12 people on my email list. Now I have over 1,600 people. So this is how it's grown, this whole idea of plant-based eating. And so you can go on our website. I invite you on our website. You can contact me via the website. Look up what we do. We have a directory, a newsletter that just goes out. You can sign up for our newsletter. I am there, especially for the cancer community. And this month, we're just starting back with some in-person, because the whole over past year we've done Zoom like everybody else, which, as Wendy said, is amazing, because we've done a informational session and a cooking demo, and we've reached people in other countries. It's amazing how people find you. But we're taking a Zoom. Actually, the Delmont one, I just found out today, is going to be on Zoom. So I'll have to put a link up on our website if you're interested. But we're doing that next Thursday. And there is a Pittsburgh, if you want to come and just come to our Plant-Based Pittsburgh, we're going to have a table there at the Monroeville Convention Center. It's a fun afternoon from noon to 5. And we'll start off with our Zoom cooking demos next month also. So, final, if you anything that surprised you, helpful, questions you have?
That would be great, Sally. What an amazing presentation. Lots of really great information, new information, for me. If you want to stop sharing, then we can see everybody, and then people might feel free and they can unmute. That would be great.
Good idea. Yes.
Here we go. Okay. So those of you that are here, if you want to ask questions, feel free, because there's, either you can do it in the chat, or you can, feel free to unmute. So it looks like our one question is, is animal protein worse than sugar?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I unequivocally. Yeah. And if you're not sure, if this doesn't make sense to you, email me, go on to Plant-Based Pittsburgh, it says contact me. It's plantbasedpittsburgh at Gmail. And I will send you the information. I'll help you out. I'll talk to you, whatever. Yeah.
So the information that you gather, Sally, what is your resource for that information? Where do you gather that, like all of these, these amazing facts that you've gathered? Where do you find them?
Okay, so if you go onto Plant-Based Pittsburgh, there's one page that's called resources. That's just for helpful resources. The ones that you're asking me, like the citations for that, the references, when I wrote my book, Beyond Cancer, The Powerful Effect of Plant-Based Eating, I have references for every site. Everything there is cited in the book.
Okay.
So if you have something that you want me to send you, that would be fine.
I know people ask that. That's why I'm asking the question. People will ask, they'll be like, well,
oh yeah. It's like, we haven't, are you sure this isn't some fault? Yeah. Yeah. But if you go on to the resource page of Plant-Based Pittsburgh, wonderful. I mean, these are doctors. There are physicians in Pittsburgh that get this, and it's on our directory. I do not, Darla, you're saying are all oils bad. I don't use oils. Coconut oil is very high in saturated fat. Coconut is. So if I tell people, if you're using coconut, just use the whole coconut as flavoring. Don't go with the oils. That's one of those, some of these things, the coconut industry has this thing, how healthy coconut oil. It is very good for your skin. I have to say, I use coconut oil sometimes with my dry skin, but yeah, it's very high in saturated fat. So it's, if you want to watch your saturated fat, that's something to be aware of. Yeah. So there's there's no healthy oils, Darla. Avocado is healthy, the whole food.
Sally?
Yes.
Linda here. What do you do with flax seeds? I've got flax seeds, but then I heard they have to be ground before you can
Yes.
use them. But can you
Yes.
grind them ahead? And
Absolutely. I grind them ahead because otherwise if you're not ground, you're going to eliminate them. Okay.
Right.
Instead of soda. So I grind them ahead. I have a blender. I grind them ahead. Then I put them in a jar and I put it in your refrigerator though.
okay.
Okay.
And then what do you do with
And
them?
then you can put it in oatmeal. You can put it in, again, smoothie, salad, whatever, sauces. Yes. Yeah, coconut oil is also good for your hair. You're right. It is like that. Arthritis. To be rich, you're asking about, I've heard that too. Arthritis, get away of, I can send you information if you email me, but for most people, it's a matter of eliminating the animal. Eliminate the dairy, eliminate the animal proteins, and it will be anti-inflammatory.
Are there shade foods? I mean, is that a legitimate thing, or?
I have to be careful what
You can speak freely here.
yeah. I would say if your wife is eating dairy and foods, an animal, get rid of them. Okay. Shade foods, I've heard mixed things about it. I would have to go on the Nutrition Facts site to look it up definitively.
Thanks.
Honey is a natural sweetener. Yes, Mary. There's really not a nutritional aspect to it, to be honest, but use it. Yeah, you can use it. Stevia, there's some questions about stevia. I don't like the aftertaste and the alcohol sugars, so I just don't use it. Yeah, I can even use, if don't want to buy dates, another one, I've used raisins, soak raisins and make a raisin paste. Dried fruit can be a good sweetener. Other questions that
Yeah, I think there was one up earlier, Sally, that's how important do you think eating organic is?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay. I also say this in my book.
Okay.
So here's what I do personally. Organic tends to be harder to find and it tends to be more expensive. So there is a site called Environmental Working Group, the Daily Dozen. You might be familiar with it. It's ewg.org. And if you go on every year, they test the pesticide levels on this, and it's usually, they have what's called the 12 that you should avoid if you can. And it usually tends to be the thin-skinned fruits and vegetables like the berries that have a higher pesticide residue. Sometimes it's carrots. Yeah, so I tend to go on that one and try to get the organic. And if it's not much, because organic tends to have, you look at the research, tends to have a higher nutritional value, slightly higher. But I'll tell you what, if you can't find organics or it's way expensive, go eating a conventional apple and not an organic apple is way healthier than that chunk of cheese. You know, you don't want to avoid, you know, something that you like because you don't have the organic. Yeah, so make it that's it. Make it practical for yourself. Local honey for allergies. I wish, that's one thing I have to say. Some people, when they go plant-based eating, their allergies almost disappear. I'm struggling with I took some Tylenol before this storm. I still struggle with sinus and allergies, though my asthma disappeared. I have to say that. Anything else that I missed or questions? Yeah, I don't understand. I say, Mary, I don't know what sources you've been told to avoid soy. And yeah, because as I said earlier, soy has been shown to be, and even the American Cancer Society, go on their website and they'll talk, they have they talk about soy on that one being, it can be very protective. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, all my physicians have said that as well, oncologists and other doctors, because they say that it mimics estrogen.
Oh, golly.
So, and okay. I'm a 12-year, I'm like almost a 13-year survivor like you. I was diagnosed in 2008 and I've been cancer-free for, 12 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, they say it mimics estrogen. And since my cancer is ER positive, and I don't like tofu, like that's something that but I try to watch, but I try to watch like soy-based proteins. Like if I'm going to have a protein shake or something, I'll do that Orgain.
Oh, don't do that. Okay, I shouldn't say that. Stay away from those concentrated proteins, whether it's pea or something. I caution against that highly. There's no need for that. Certainly the whey. Yeah, if you don't like soy anyway, but I can show you, I can send you the information from the organizations, and it's, as I say, it's a learning process for physicians and healthcare workers also.
So Sally, we talked a little bit about Radical Hope before you came on here, and the presenter for that, she actually mentioned when she got her recurrence many years ago, and she's a 27-year survivor of metastatic breast cancer, that when you look at diet and nutrition, that you should really look at what you're specifically lacking. That there's a lot of different diets and a lot of generalizations that are made out there about nutrition, but that perhaps like even a functional medicine doctor can do some testing and see what you're lacking, so that maybe that, you know, this diet doesn't work for this you know, I shouldn't say diet, but this nutritional plan doesn't work for this person, but it may work for this person. You know, each of us certainly are lacking certain things. We're all not lacking the same thing. And so what's your thoughts on that, about looking into further about like what specific people are lacking to kind of focus, you know, a nutritional plan for?
I don't have, let me just say, you're right, everybody's different and everyone has different tastes, different. Just be cautious. That's what I would say, because there are some people who are making big bucks
Right.
with these nonsense, the blood type, the wheat, what was it, wheat belt? I mean, doing blood work to figure. Just be very cautious. That's what I would say about who you go to and what you're. Yeah.
I think that's what's hard for and then you all can chime in, you know, you're the experts at this. I am not. I just know what I've observed over the years of doing this, is that like, who do you believe? And then it changes. Like, you know,
I know, and that's why this is stable.
Yeah.
This is, you cannot go wrong with a plant-centered diet. It's just, you know, I think, oh yeah, I, you know, I've seen some alternative care that just makes me shake my head, you know. This is, you want to go with the evidence-based nutrition. That's what I want to say. Yes.
Mhm.
And
yet there are some registered dietitians with master's degrees that would probably refute some of the things that you said.
Oh, I know, because if you look at the American Dietetics Association, that they are going back, they are the curriculums that they have come up with are, I look at that, and it's, a lot of it is, to be honest with you, is not accurate. It hasn't caught up to what's up there. You know, I go with the precautionary principle. If something is saying there's a relationship between dairy and ovarian cancers, you know, I want to be really cautious there.
Right.
And I am going to avoid dairy because there's such good alternatives. You don't need it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there are plant-based nutritionists who have had the background there. The American Dietetics Association now has a subgroup who, of people who are I think it's the they go by the name vegetarian, a subgroup who are pushing for more of this information about the plant-centered and more, and changing some curriculums.
Mhm.
There is my friend sent me just yesterday's in Shadyside, her husband has lung cancer, and she sent me a picture of the menu options. And at the top of the menu, I have never seen this in a hospital menu, where one of our local doctors was advocating for plant-centered eating and choices that you've made. So yeah, it's slowly. So as I said, I just go with caution, go with, you know, and if you're not sure, email me. I'll send you what I know about it and the really reliable sources. Go with the people who, like nutritionfacts.org is fantastic because there's no commercial interest.
Mhm.
So go with us who don't have the core commercial interest in it.
Sally, you were saying about turmeric.
Yes.
My PCP, who is very conservative, when I got RA, and they don't know if it's from the cancer treatment or what, told me to take turmeric. but I was taking the capsules and it has the black pepper in it because I really can't use it on everything because of the flavor and that. Is there no use in taking it if it's in the capsule?
Oh, no. Oh, no, I'm not saying there's no use. No, 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 no. Yeah. No, that's okay. I just, for generally, if you're gonna, you know.
And I
I
actually
just-
had
you're
I
gonna
had a
put-
client that was a breast cancer survivor that was using turmeric, and it was it was going against her AI inhibitor and causing her some issues. So, there are some interactions with some of these herbs and that you have to
Yes,
you have to discuss
Yes.
that with a pharmacist, so
yeah.
and that's really important because it can actually lower the efficacy of the drug,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you have-
When I went through chemotherapy, they know every supplement they want. Yeah, you
Right.
really, that's a good point there.
really
Cindy,
important. Really important.
Yeah.
There's a couple other things in the chat here. So my first treatment for MS was based on a hair sample, determined what I was lacking, and had I continued that program, I would never have taken any MS meds, and I am better since I stopped taking the meds. So I guess that has to do with just
Yeah, I'm not sure.
do you trust
um,
somebody of what they're doing,
Yeah, there is a lot of information. In fact, there's a doctor, Stacy Stanek, who just came out with Code Blue last year, documentary, who had MS and how she reversed it, totally reversed it. And yeah, there is a lot of literature on MS and foods. So
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Jenny Mack just said, my cancer center as a survivor is now recommending a whole food plant-based diet. So there you go.
boy, Jenny, that's wow.
Can I
Very good.
ask what cancer center you go to that's recommending that?
I go to Kansas University Medical Center, or their cancer center, where I had a stem cell transplant.
So Kansas is in the state of
Kansas.
Kansas.
Yep.
Good for Kansas. Okay, Jenny. Yeah.
So that brings up another good question. Some of the bigger, and I shouldn't say this because, UPMC and AHN probably, they're big, obviously, but like the MD Andersons, the Sloan Kettering, Sally, are they more progressive when it comes to this, do you think, in supporting it? No, they're not. Okay.
No. The people that I have known gone, a lot of it is, if you're going through treatment, you want the comfort for you can, they'll give you options. I have to say, they'll give you options, but unless they have programs to teach it, I have not heard that.
They're also doing more research with plants for cancer treatments, and they've started growing gardens and stuff on the campuses.
Yeah, McGee has a garden. I know that they started growing. McGee Women's Hospital.
Do you ever do any work, Sally, with the dietitians from either one of the AHN and UPMC? Do you help educate them further, since
I would love to.
Okay.
UPMC is actually getting more, one of the, oh golly, who is he? He's in charge of the dietary, is plant-based. And my understanding is that they are trying to get it more and more and more into the meals, into the patients.
Until the hospital, what they're serving at the hospital.
Yeah, but it's an uphill battle. Part of it too is that hospitals, they want to please patients, so they're going to give patients what they're used to, so to speak. But they also have to make it,
Cost efficient.
practical, cheap, and easy, and just the change is so slow. It's so slow, but it's just coming.
Mhm.
There are Kaiser Permanente in California now has that as the #1 diet, that medical system. For all of the, they are giving it to all the doctors, the information, all the physicians.
Yeah, I didn't realize they were that far behind in supporting this. I would have thought this is not a new novel idea. You know, it's been out there for
Yeah.
kind of surprised.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Understanding it
It's-
a little better. Yeah. And you have doctors as part of Plant-Based Pittsburgh too, is that correct?
Yes, yes, we do.
So can you tell them a little bit about Plant-Based Pittsburgh, like what, you know, what you all do and, you know, any information?
Well, I'll tell you, before COVID and after COVID, okay, before COVID, we would have in-person meetings at 4 different locations. There's an once a month, and 4 different leaders. There was an East Pittsburgh location in Murraysville. There was a North location in the North suburbs, a city location, and a South Hills location. So we had these in-person meetings, and each meeting would be, well, 3 of them are in a library that didn't charge money. If that's the other thing, it's difficult to find a location where they don't charge. The other one was in the doctor's office. But we would have a topic, each leader would pick a topic, and they would have, you know, in-person meeting. And then we would have once a month an in-person cooking demo in these on a Saturday afternoon. So, and then we were having, we were having our first in-person summit in April of 2020 with physicians and cooking demos, and we had sold all the tickets, and then COVID came. So needless to say, that didn't happen. So since COVID, we are really, we're just doing the twice monthly Zoom. At what we've been doing. We have a YouTube channel. So if you go into YouTube or go on our website and post the link, you can see we've had several cancer related presentations from physicians. And some other interest, a lot of cooking demos that tend to get the most views on it. But you're welcome to go.
Wonderful.
You get emails, Harriet. But so I want every month, what I do is I put together a newsletter just to say, this is what's happening, but also some recipes, because we want, and if you go to Plant-Based Pittsburgh, there's a whole page of recipes. You just click on it. We have but also the recipes every month in the newsletter. And in addition, some what I call news you can use, some information that just came out, the news or you know, something that could be useful for you.
Sounds
So
great.
you're welcome.
Sounds great. Anybody else have any other questions? Last minute questions? Okay. All right. Well, we thank you, Sally, for your time and your talents. And gosh, all this information is certainly, you know, a treasure for us to be able to utilize. And we look forward to, you know, continuing to work more with you. And, you know, if anybody, you know, wants to reach out. And also, this is, since it's recorded, we will have all of this on the website. So that if you want to go back, and I don't know, Sally, even if you want to look, if you want to share your slides, I can also share the slides with you guys in case you want to look at them further or print them out and be able to look at suggestions. Are you able to do that at all, that we can print them out?
I don't share my slides
Okay.
because for obvious reasons, I just never know where they're going to end up. And
Okay.
yeah. But if you want to buy, I'll tell you, as I say, all this information is in my book. You can get it on Amazon Kindle. For $10. It's the paperback on Amazon or the Kindle. If you want, I have my copies with the color photos. I give it to cancer survivors for $5, my cost. So
Perfect. That's good.
Yeah.
So you guys can access that, or you can watch the video again, whatever works. So
yeah.
that sounds
Yeah.
great. All right. Well, everybody have a great evening. And like I said, in 2 weeks, we'll have the dentist come on and talk about oncology, you know, care for dental care for, you know, patients. All right. Thanks again, Sally.
Good night, everyone.
All right.
Good night.
Take care,
Thank
you
you.
guys.